As we all know, Harry Potter is one of the most beloved book series ever created, starting with J.K. Rowling writing the very first words on a napkin while in a pub in London. Little did she realize what a masterpiece of literature that she was creating, engraving itself within the hearts and minds of children and adults across the world, each one of them waiting for the next chapter of the boy who lived. As we all know, Harry Potter itself is the story of a boy with a scar on his forehead in the shape of a lightning bolt thrust into a world that he had no idea existed, a world of magic, of friendship, and of danger. The character grew from a boy raised in a cupboard to a powerful wizard with the weight of the world on his shoulders. From every spell, from every Quidditch game, to every threat ever posed to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, we watched as Harry Potter grew, connecting with his friends Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, and everyone else he met along the way. The series began on June 26, 1997, with the release of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And just to point this out, because I know someone else will, this is only in the UK variations of the book. Other countries would be released as Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Fun fact, every scene filmed with the phrase Philosopher's Stone had to be refilmed with the phrase Sorcerer's Stone, just to match. It took some time for J.K. Rowling to actually release the book as she kept getting rejected, but now everybody just loves the book, as it spread like wildfire, and it didn't take long for it to get its own film adaptation, roughly 4 years after the initial release date. The Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone film version was released on November 4th, 2001, to unanimous praise from both critics and book fans alike. One thing to note about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is that it was one of the greatest adaptations of a young adult novel ever, with most of the details from the book intact, and those that were removed were simply to streamline the plot, as most of those details were not strictly necessary for the film to be understood. However, this approach was not without its flaws as the series went on. At the time of the film's release date, J.K. Rowling had already released half the novels in the series. As Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire had been released the previous July, this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. This gave the filmmakers plenty of time to see what could work when scripting out the remaining films that were still in production, while J.K. Rowling finished the remaining 3 books. The problem that comes into play, the books just kept getting longer, and as a result, the films, restricted by roughly 2 to 2.5 hours worth of screen time, had to cut a lot of details, which was made even worse by the fact that most of the details that ended up being cut in the films could potentially, and did, end up having larger significance in future books. For example, in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry receives a piece of a mirror that turns out to be a two-way mirror that allows Aberforth Dumbledore, the brother of Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore, to keep an eye on him throughout the series. But this is not present in the film version of said book, so it's made confusing when this mirror suddenly appears as a strange, unexplained detail in the film version of Deathly Hallows several years later. This is just due to the fact that the books got longer. Order of the Phoenix itself is the longest book in the franchise. Details were cut to accommodate the film series itself. Why is this important? Well, as you may or may not know at the time of this video's recording, HBO Max is in the process of developing a Harry Potter TV show based around all 7 books. There are more than a few people that aren't happy with this, as the film series itself is one of the best produced of its kind, and the nostalgia of the characters coming to life for the first time will always be seen as unable to be matched. That isn't to say it's not going to be impossible, but whoever replaces them for the upcoming TV version is certainly not to be envied. But much like Lord of the Rings from Peter Jackson, the upcoming version of Harry Potter will have a distinct advantage over its initial film counterpart, that the film series just did not have. The book series haven't been completed before this series starts production. As for Harry Potter, the multitude of directors who directed the adaptations, they had to focus on the very film that they were adapting. The original film's director, Christopher Columbus, did this masterfully because they were very short and kept much in line with the books. But since the rest of the franchise had both longer books and multiple directors directing most of the rest of the franchise had multiple directors directing the films, with the exception of everything from Order of the Phoenix onwards, plus the books getting longer themselves, details had to be changed or dropped entirely, Deathly Hallows notwithstanding, because it was split into 2 parts. Now, there's not a lot of details about the HBO Max adaptation of the series, aside from the fact it is intended to last 7 seasons. Much like the film adaptations, we will be watching the actors grow from children to adults over the course of roughly 7 to 10 years. Now, most TV shows run for up to 22 episodes, so assuming that the episodes of this particular series run to be about an hour, if not a half hour, this allows for the novel to be told in a roughly 11 to 22 hour time frame, if watched all at once. Meaning there's more than enough time compared to the 2.5 hours of the film versions, and while the length of the films is nothing to sneeze at, as it is a very good adaptation, Harry Potter being put into a TV format allows more breathing room and to improve on the very things that the film versions had to struggle with. And I understand that not everybody is happy about the idea of an HBO Max version of Harry Potter, since Harry Potter is one of the quintessential book-to-film adaptations in cinema outside of Lord of the Rings, but only time will tell if the HBO Max version is a success in its own right.